Good morning friends and welcome to the pre-market view. After almost about 6 weeks of gain for the US markets, last week they reported negative tick and they were down almost about 0.35 to 0.4%. European markets however were up anywhere from 0.4 to almost about 1%. No major economic data points to talk about. And when we look at the Asian markets today morning, Japan is flat, but Hang Seng and Shanghai both are up about 1.25 and 0.75%. Also, when we look at the SGX Nifty, it's suggesting that we are going to have a positive start of almost about 25 points. In terms of flows, friends, FIs were net sellers in the cash market to the tune of 400 crore. The domestic institutions were biased to the tune of about 516 crore. And in the index futures, we've seen the FIs selling to the tune of almost about 400 crore again. After a long time, we are seeing a very big number from the domestic institutions on the buying front. Back home, our markets saw some kind of a pullback on Thursday, led by some of the pharma companies and other index heavyweights, particularly companies like Ranbaxy, Biocon, Tata Motors, and some of the banks which had actually gone down sharply. We saw some bit of a pullback, but the overall breadth of the market was not that great. And looking at the kind of measures which the RBI has taken of sucking out almost about 22,000 crore of liquidity, we think that overall sentiment towards the banking sector is likely to remain negative. On that note, let me invite Sadhana to take us through important F&O cues, data and strategies that we can have in the F&O markets.
Good morning friends, let's have a view on derivatives. After a continuous selling in Nifty, we have seen a good bounce in Thursday's trade of around 50 to 60 points. Simultaneously, we have seen short positions were built up at higher levels as around 3.78 lakh shares were added in open interest and Nifty futures premium decreased from 35 points to 24 odd levels. And there is no change in PCR, but still we have seen call option has added more number of shares compared to put option. As we see 5500 call option as well as put option has seen a good activity, and on higher side 5600 followed by 5700 call option has seen a good activity, and on lower side 5300 and 5200 had seen a good activity. But 5500 would act as a good support on closing basis, and we expect some bounce up to our weekly VWAP of 5700. From intraday perspective, one can go long on Allahabad Bank with a stop loss of 70.80. Thank you.
Here are the important news and events that we are tracking today. First of all, the numbers which will be announced. State Bank, we are looking at a net profit of about 3,420 crore. And it is important to look out for the restructured loans and whether there is any improvement on a quarter-on-quarter basis, because last time around that number was looking better because of the recovery from the previous quarters. But the incremental NPLs and the restructured loan part is something that the market is going to be keenly watching out for in State Bank. ONGC, we are looking at a net profit of about 4930 crore. HPCL, profit of about 2240 crore. Tech Mahindra, 528 crore net profit. DLF, about 110 crore. And in case of Indraprastha Gas, we are looking at a net profit of about 85.8 crore. IIP data for the month of June is going to be out, and the market expectation is that it's going to be minus 1.1%. versus about 1.6% reported in the previous quarter, and the CPI data for the month of July is going to be 9.7% versus 9.87% in the previous month. But these numbers would be out post market at about 5 p.m. Sun Pharma came out with a good set of numbers on Friday, and both at the top line level as well as at the net profit level, the numbers were much better than market expectations. There was a one-time item of the settlement relating to Pfizer, and adjusting that, the numbers were looking much better. So there is an expectation that after maybe 2 or 3 days of weakness, Sun Pharma stock could again actually climb up. So overall bias towards Sun Pharma is positive. Also, overall the analysts had expected a net profit of about 1035 crore for Sun Pharma, which is about 30% kind of a growth YOY. Whereas actual revenue growth is likely to be about 23%. For housing finance companies, some positive news as IRDA has eased the investment norms, and they have permitted the insurers to invest up to 20% in the housing finance companies. So this is definitely a bit of a positive for companies like HDFC, LIC Housing Finance, Diwan Housing Finance, etc. Bombay Rayons has approached the lenders to convert 10% of the loan into equity. Remember friends, the company is going through a lot of pain and they have a debt of about 4,100 crore, and this could come under NPL. So some negotiations on the restructuring are going on right now, and the RBI has once again started taking some measures to curb the rupee volatility, and they've decided to actually auction 22,000 crore every Monday, and this would again put further pressure on the short-term interest rates. And this is definitely a bit negative for the banking sector as a whole, because we are not seeing any improvement in the rupee per se, but this kind of a liquidity management is putting pressure on the interest rates. So overall, this is negative for the banking sector. Finance Ministry has agreed to give a total subsidy of almost about 8,000 crore to the OMCs like IOC, BPCL and HPCL, which is way below the support sanctioned of almost about 451 crore. So this is something that is negative for the oil marketing companies. Coming to the company specific news, the Reliance Communication is likely to sign an intra-city fiber optic sharing with Reliance Jio, and this is pretty much in line with what the market was expecting earlier. And overall, optic fiber network could have about 3,000 to 3,500 crore of inflow for Reliance Communication. So one can go long there with a stop loss of 122 with a target of 128 to about 130. Biocon has launched its novel biologic Elzumab in India for the treatment of psoriasis skin disease. So one can go long on Biocon with a stop loss of 329 and a target of about 346 to about 353. Cipla came out with a good set of numbers, and they reported 10% increase in the consolidated net profit, and despite the pricing issues in the domestic market, the company reported extremely good growth. So one can go long there with a stop loss of 401 and a target of about 421 to about 429. Aditya Birla Nuvo also came out with extremely good set of numbers. They reported 24% growth in the net profit, and this was driven by all the business verticals. So one can go long on Aditya Birla Nuvo with a stop loss of 1104 and a target of about 1161 to about 1182. That's it from all of us friends. Have a great trading session and see you tomorrow at the same time.